Welcome back to ET with GOTB. Well, the Seagulls soar against the Citizens and advantage Arsenal in the Champions League. Let's get into it. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. As you can see, we are coming to you from a foreign land. You can guess where we are. We won't tell you. This reminds me a bit of when we did our wrap-up post-Euros pod against the stone wall in Italy.
Yeah.
It's a bit of that vibe.
Yeah, near Florence, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
So you'll hear the tweeting birds in the running water. You might see a barking dog because we are dog sitting. But yeah, plenty to get stuck into this weekend. We did say at the end of last week's episode that we felt like we would have plenty to get our teeth stuck into, and we absolutely do. We're of course going to look at the weekend's WSL results. A couple of surprises in there. We'll chat about the Champions League semi-finals, of course, as well. And we say this every bloody week, but WSL 2 is just getting madder and madder every week. And it is coming to the final fixture as well, and it's still all to play for. So you're going to give me a player of the week?
Sure.
You're going to give me something to shine a spotlight on?
Yep.
Okay, good. You sound as confident as ever. Before we get into that, this is your weekly reminder to make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following us across all of our socials, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Do leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of this weekend's action and how you think it's all going to play out. And do make sure you're following us across all of our socials. We are at GirlsontheBall on everything. Okay, let's get into the WSL results first and foremost, because there are a few surprises. Brighton 3, Manchester City 2. Haley with the brace, Seika, Carolyn and Shaw with the goals. Tottenham 0, Manchester United 0. Everton 1, Chelsea 4. Momiki, Kerr with the brace, Carpenter and Cuthbert. London City 5, Leicester 1. Corrales, Goodwin, Marsetto, Gaoro, Godfrey and O'Brien. Bloody hell, lots of goal scorers there. And Liverpool 0, West Ham 1. A Capock's own goal. It means that the WSL table looks like this. Manchester City are still on top. Don't worry, citizens. They're still on top on 49 points. They are currently 6 clear of Chelsea, who are on 43 in second. Manchester United are in third on 39 points. And Arsenal are in fourth on 38. They, of course, have 3 games in hand. The maximum number of points that Arsenal can pick up is 53. They would need to win all of their games to do that. So City need 5 points from their last 2 games to put it out of reach. It is also likely that they could finish on 54 and then still win the superior goal difference, but whether that's actually likely to happen, I'm not sure. But if City win, if Arsenal lose this weekend, City can win it with a win at Liverpool.
Midweek, you mean?
Yeah, midweek, yeah. If Arsenal lose against Leicester or drop points against Leicester, Manchester City can win it with a win against Liverpool, and they would win it with a game to spare. If Arsenal win on Wednesday night, it will inevitably go down to the last weekend. However,
whatever happens with City Liverpool.
Yeah, however, City could win it without kicking a ball against West Ham if Arsenal were to drop points against any of the teams they have remaining fixtures against. So, it could be an exciting final day, or it could already be decided. We shall see. There's still
essentially the hopes of them lifting the trophy at home are quite slim, because on current form, Leicester might throw a surprise up, but on current form, you would say that Arsenal will win that game in midweek, and therefore, whatever happens, they're not going to lift that trophy at home.
The only way Arsenal could win is if they win all of their games and hope that Manchester City slip up in one of their final 2 games. That's the only way it can happen. So while I say City need 5 points, they can also essentially get those 5 points from Arsenal dropping points. It's complicated. It's not that complicated. It's complicated. Depends if you're looking at it while I'm talking to you. Down the bottom, Leicester are on 9 points. They are 7 behind West Ham, who are on 16. Leicester, of course, have that game in hand, which they're playing against Arsenal on Wednesday. So they need to win that if they want to keep that playoff battle going. But you're saying on current form, and I'm saying you never know.
You seem really iffy about it.
I just think the way things are going, everything's mad.
It's not that mad.
It is, yeah. Okay, let's look at the actual games. You were working the Brighton versus Manchester City game, the surprise of the weekend, first game of the weekend, and of course coming back from that long international break. Some are wondering if that was maybe what tripped Man City up a little bit. What did you make of it all?
It might have been, but I think that could be said for Brighton as well. Like these things apply to both sides. I think City were having to cope without Viviana Miedema, and we all know what a creative threat she's been in this City side. Andre Eglert's put Carolyn in the 10, And she was really bright in the first half. I think she was actually really involved in every move. But I think City just were at fault for not taking their chances. They started so strongly. Brighton was so lax in possession, building out from the back. City had about 4 or 5 chances. They should have been 4-0 up. Dario Ivicic even said that. He said that they should have been out of sight. Mm-hmm. And when you don't put games to bed, that's when teams get confidence. And Brighton were always going to have a couple of chances. They've got good players, and they scored, I think, at the perfect time. They scored just before, deep into injury time in the first half, so changed the whole outlook of that first half. And then 2 minutes, Kiko Seke after the restart.
What a goal that was from Seke as well. She loves scoring a really difficult angled goal, doesn't she?
And I think that just like compounded to really swing the momentum in Brighton's favour. And City couldn't really recover in the second half for quite a bit. They had chances here and there, but nothing really brilliant. And then Brighton had the tail beneath their, whatever it is, wind in their sails, that's it. Wind in their sails, and their
tails were up.
Yes, that's the word, phrase. But yeah, so their tails were up and they were like gunning for another goal. They had a penalty shout that Dario thought was a penalty, I'm not so sure. And then they had another goal from Madison Haley, and it was just about who wanted it most in the box. And while Manchester City did recover, got another goal back and finished pretty strongly, I think they were really disappointed about how they managed moments of that game and how they just didn't, I don't know, complacent, whatever it was, they just didn't take their chances.
Andre Eglert seemed pretty relaxed afterwards. You know, I think he knew like things will happen, and they've almost given themselves a cushion to allow those kind of moments to happen. Brighton bloody love the run-in. Like, I don't know what happens, maybe it's the Seagulls in the sunshine, I don't know, but they seem to bloody love kind of April onwards. They seem to go, oh, this is what we've been trying to do and this is how it works. And you know, I know they love playing out from the back, but bloody hell, if you're a Brighton fan, that must make you very nervous from the get-go.
And it was like happening again and again and again, and you were just like, what? Like, just stop. Like,
take the pressure off.
I know it's the way that you want to play football, but we've said it a million times before. You have to learn when to change things up and when to maybe just go long rather than
ease the pressure.
And then you can switch it around again when you're feeling a bit more comfortable. But Man City, were just in the first half very.
Listen, maybe they were just doing us all a favour and saying, let's make things a bit exciting. Everyone's been saying we've got this wrapped up weeks ago, and maybe we want to just give everyone a little bit of excitement towards the end. So
I
maybe
think
that's what
Andre,
it is.
well, he was calm because it is very much in their hands. I think both he and Alex Greenwood, who were interviewed afterwards, were very frustrated. And you could see Andre being a bit frustrated on the touchline because things weren't going as well. And while it is very much in their hands, they are now in slip-up zone.
And against Liverpool, like there's narratives there. It's Gareth Taylor again. You know, Liverpool have pulled some surprises out. And
no one knows these players better than, you know, Gareth Taylor does, I think, as well, in terms of an opposition coach. And I think they were just really frustrated that, you know, they could have been 2 points away from a title, and they let it slip. And now you're getting down to the 2 games of the season, and you're getting to, they've done it before, it's been squeaky bum zone, right? And you think back 2 years ago when they lost the title and goal difference, it was in their hands at this time, pretty much, and they let it slip. And I guess there's a bit of scar tissue there, maybe.
Elsewhere, we had Tottenham versus Manchester United. Speaking of narratives, and 2 coaches who know each other quite well, despite the 0-0 draw, it was quite an entertaining game in terms of, you know, the way Spurs were playing. They were playing some really exciting football. They were creating so many opportunities. They'll be raging they didn't come away with 3 points from this game because they absolutely created enough. Manchester United just looked a bit flat, maybe. They were outplayed a little bit in midfield. They were missing Zigiotti, of course. It was good to see Elatoon, Sandberg come back. Vangerheim is back as well from injury, but having those players in the run-in, what does it mean for... There's still potential for Champions League for Manchester United. It's made it more difficult, but it's still possible.
It's out of their hands. They need others to slip up. And on the form that they're showing at times in the league, and I just think how this season has gone, I think getting out of the Champions League as well, while that was a huge success for that football team to get to that stage of the Champions League.
Don't be negative.
Yeah, can't be doing that. But yeah, no, well, it was a great success to get to the quarterfinals in your first season in the Champions League, and the way that they challenged some teams in Europe and got some good results. I think it's really hard now to try and regather yourselves. It's a small squad. They don't have a lot of depth. Without Giulia Zighiotti, I think she and Hinata Miyazawa were absolutely key in that midfield area in terms of the pressing and what they do. And they just are tired, I think. And trying to get yourself up for this run-in, and it's a hard run-in. They've got Tottenham, well, they've had Tottenham.
They played Chelsea on the last day of the season.
They played Chelsea. I can't remember who they have next, but they played Chelsea on the last day of the season. And yeah, it's just a tough one when you're relying on others to do the job for you rather than yourself.
Conversely, Tottenham, they were at their fluid, free-flowing best. They were, showing what they can do well, very well. And it was that kind of marauding attack, attacking in a pack. Signe Gupset was superb, particularly in the first half. Olivia Holt, I thought, would have had a great game. Numerous players, I think, stood out. And they will be, they'll be going back over that footage going, how did the ball not go in the back of the net?
I think it's an evolution of this Tottenham side, and they will be very frustrated. But I think it is the next stage in their journey is that end product piece. And they create a lot. They are fun when they're attacking. They're a fun outfit. It's just like putting all the pieces together. And we've got to remember, it's the first season in charge for Martin Ho. Things don't click at once, and the fact that a lot has clicked is very positive.
And I asked Martin Ho about, the conceding goals thing, because that's been a bit of a narrative this side of the year, if you like. And I think it's almost a little bit unfair because they've a couple of games where they've conceded a lot, and that's massively put that side of the numbers up hugely. You look at, say, your Man United's, your Manchester City's, your Arsenal's, conceding a lot of goals in a few games has made that look maybe far worse than it actually is, because they had, I think, 5 clean sheets in their opening, maybe 12, I'm not sure. But he did point out, and this is a fair point, is that there's been some inconsistency in that back line at this half of the season. And they've had multiple players put in there, whether it's Molly Bartrip, Amanda Nilden was in there.
They lost Toka Koga and Claire Hunt to the Asian Cup. Claire Hunt got injured at the Asian Cup, is now missing the rest of the season. So he's had to deal with that, and maybe it just shows that maybe there isn't the strength and depth in those areas that you probably need when you have situations like this where an Asian Cup happens in the middle of the season and both of your defenders are from that part of the world.
All right, let's move on to Everton versus Chelsea. A comfortable win in the end for Chelsea, although I'm sure many thought when Momiki scored that wonderful goal to peg it back to 1-1, people are kind of going, oh my God, is it happening again? It wasn't happening again. Chelsea, comfortable winners. Sam Kerr, back in firing form. She scored a brace, should have been a hat-trick. Like, the amount of accounts I've seen who are just engagement baiting by putting up the photo going, do you think this was over? And it's like, we can all see clear grass between the line and the ball. We know it's over. It's not a question. But it was quite clearly should have been a hat-trick for Sam Kerr. And, it'll be annoying for her because she's equalled Fran Kirby's goal-scoring record now as the top goal scorer for Chelsea. And she essentially did beat it. But no, that goal was scratched off. So perhaps something she'll get to do before the end of the season. Yeah,
I think she probably will, in the form that she is in at the moment. And I think she's determined to, whether it's her last few games in a Chelsea shirt or not, to end this season on a real high, especially after the long injury layoff that she had. And, there's always questions when a player gets an ACL about whether they'll ever get back to their best. We had it with Beth Mead, we had it with Viv Miedemar. Invariably, they show that they can. Yep. But I think it's with that kind of injury and everything that comes with it, there are always questions. So I think it's about proving it to herself, but also proving it to everyone else that she is still Sam Kerr and one of the best strikers in world football.
Yeah, and everyone's return is individual as well. It's different for everybody, but it's good to see her back. I mean, she's already come back and scored goals, but to be up there knocking on, making history for Chelsea is nice to see. I think for Everton, I spoke to Scott Phelan about this, about the win they got last time out and how really everything had to go right for them for that to happen. Everything had to be perfect. They needed a little bit of luck on their side. They needed Chelsea not to be at the races in terms of efficiency in front of goal, and That's a hard thing to then go and duplicate. So this was a Chelsea that was much more on firing form. Cuthbert and
especially in the second half.
Yeah, Carpenter getting goals as well. So, you know, for Chelsea, the main thing for them is just winning every game now, to ensuring that they get that Champions League spot. And of course, they've got an FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah, and building that
well.
form for that semi-final as well. I think it's all about morale and confidence.
Absolutely. Okay, another game you were working before you made the mad dash across London to Arsenal. London City versus Leicester. This opened up a little bit. Well, I was going to say the second half, but was it 3-1 by half-time or was it 2-1?
No, it was 1-1 at half-time.
It was 1-1 at half-time?
2-1 at half-time.
Okay, definitely opened up in the second half. I mean, London, from a London City perspective, they'll be delighted because they've had a bit of an iffy run since Maestra's come in. You know, they've got some draws, but they hadn't had many wins. So this would be big for them, and not just a win, but like 5 different goal scorers. You know, comfortable win, lots of goal scorers, a nicer way to finish towards the end of the season.
I think they've had a bit of a bad block, the last block. A few draws, a few losses here and there, and maybe not the kind of impact that they wanted when Eder Maestro came in. I think he is building something. I don't think that's a reflection on him, but I think coming in halfway through a season and being expected to turn it on straight away with a squad that was very much playing in Jocelyn Pressure's way of playing football is a hard ask. And so this will have done them lots of favours in terms of that confidence and in terms of, I guess, they've got injury problems as well. We lost Kosovare Aslani. DVD's out. So there are issues. So they were having to fill a few holes in there. And the way that they applied themselves in the game, I think Leicester started pretty well. But London City always had that strength, and they were proving so dangerous from those deliveries from wide areas. I think 4 of the 5 goals came from deliveries from wide areas. So, that was a real strength. It was obviously something they really targeted about Leicester City. For Leicester, they started so well, and it's just about their morale in this moment in time that they conceded 2 minutes after scoring. And you can't be doing that. You need to let things settle. You need to be just playing it a bit safe. And fair enough, like the goal from Lucia Corrales, I asked her afterwards if she claimed it was a shot. It was very much a cross that fooled Olivia Clark. And so there's sometimes not much you can do about that. But I do think just handling those moments in games, and Rick was very passable, I think he was just very frustrated about the way they let the game get away from them in the second half. They performed really well in that first half. In the second half, they couldn't get a foothold in it, and they just sort of crumbled. And it was just like everything fell off the end of a cliff. Almost.
Shannon O'Brien did, of course, get the goal for Leicester, but a difficult day at the office. And like they did, I remember in the pre-match press conference, you know, when asked about players injured, he had a whole list of players. There were some players coming back and available on the bench, which was good, but this has been, you know, a problem for Leicester for numerous seasons now, and you can sack the managers. It doesn't change the fact that you're not investing enough in the squad and the depth of the squad, and that's really what Leicester need this summer if they stay in the WSL and if they want to compete in the WSL. They definitely need a little bit of depth. You got to speak to Sam Tierney post-match on her 100th appearance. Nearly made her cry when you asked her.
100th WSL appearance.
For Leicester.
Yeah, she became only the second player in WSL history to reach 100 WSL appearances for one club. I did make her cry. Well, make her well up, which I felt really bad about. But I was just asking her about what the club means to her, and her message to the fans in this final stages of the season. They've got a really tough run. They play Arsenal on Wednesday. They play Chelsea next weekend. It's not a fun time, I think, especially when you've got a small squad and you're playing back-to-back games like that against big opposition. It's going to be really hard. But I was saying, I think, a bit earlier that, you know, the results might not come in those final few games, but they've just really, really got to focus on trying to find something within them to build on, because they've got a second shot at this. They can get that. They can still stay in the division. They've got that playoff game if they get the 12th, which looks most likely at the moment. So that playoff game will be against the third place WSL 2 team.
Still don't know who that is yet.
Don't know who that is. And if they can find something within the next few games to build on and have some confidence going into that game, they've still very much got a chance to be playing WSL football next year. But they just have to focus on kind of finding the small positives and what feels like a lot of negative at the moment.
Okay, final game of the weekend was Liverpool versus West Ham. West Ham coming out on top, an important 3 points to put them ever further away from Leicester. They started well. West Ham capitalised on the opportunities they created. Could have had more, but it ended up being an own goal. But you have to force that mistake to happen. And I felt like it was a real momentum shifter, this game. It swung back to Liverpool, it swung back to West Ham at times. And I just think, not the highest of quality in terms of chances created and stuff like that. There wasn't a huge amount of chances created overall. But I do think for West Ham to score early and then to see the game out and finish the game and defend well was a good positive sign for them. They've had a bit of a difficult season, particularly the first half where they were creating and not scoring. So yeah, that was a positive result for them, particularly with Liverpool kind of flying high at the moment.
Yeah, I think just get that safety, get that comfort zone. And now pretty much with the final 2 games of the season, you can be a bit freer maybe, and maybe try a few things to start the foundations for next season, because they are pretty much safe. But confidence building, I think the way they defended as well will give them a lot of confidence. The way they kept Liverpool's pressure at bay a little bit.
Some good saves from Shemek.
Made some good saves. I think it all builds into hopefully what will be a positive summer, a bit of a rebuild for next year.
Liverpool are kind of a funny one because, they had a good turn at the beginning of this year and they had some good results. But then, I think back to this game or the game against Brighton or even the FA Cup game, not brilliant quality and maybe not as free-flowing as we've seen from them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard at this time of year. I think they very much they'll never say this, but I think it's hard when all your focus actually now is going to be on that FA Cup semi-final. They want to get to the final. That's going to be their main ambition. And it's hard to not forget about the other games while they prepare for them. It's just like maybe a subconscious thing where you're safe, you can't probably climb that far up the table. So what do you do to, motivate yourself? And I think the game against Manchester City on Sunday, there's plenty to motivate yourself for. I think Gareth Taylor will certainly be motivated, and there'll be reasons to fight for that one. Not that there aren't, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And then also to build that form going into the semi-final the following week, I think is going to be important.
Yeah, I spoke to Gareth Taylor about that. He had some nice words about the semi-final. I think I'll wait until that comes up before we put out his quotes. But I feel like I'm rooting for Liverpool after everything they've been through this season. What an incredible way to end the season to get to an FA Cup final.
Yeah, I think if they get to an FA Cup final, the majority of neutral people will be probably rooting for Liverpool because
of that story.
The story, they've been through so much this season, and I think it's.
All right, very quickly, we're going to touch on Champions League, of course. We'd spoken about Bayern Munich against Barcelona. You'd said how much Bayern need to make sure they stay in this game, to make sure they're taking the tide to Barcelona. They absolutely did that, despite Barcelona scoring an early goal. It ended 1-1. Really good performance from Bayern Munich, I have to say. I do think Barca struggled at times a little bit to, there were times in the game where they were kind of standing still, trying to get Bayern to jump. And they were really disciplined in that respect. So it was a really good game.
Yeah, I think Bayern played a lot better once they were still very well structured. And I think the one thing, Bayern are a very good attacking team, but their defence is a bit sketchy and at times. And we saw that against Manchester United. And we've seen it against Arsenal earlier in the season as well. They can, concede goals and open up very easily. And they lost their league phase game 7-1 to Barcelona, so that just exemplifies that a little bit. I think they were well structured, defensively, but when they decided to go a bit more front-footed and try and push on the counter and try and win and press, I think that's when they got the best out of themselves, and they actually stunned Barcelona for a bit in that first half, in terms of like Pernilla Harder and her ability to counter-attack. And the players around her, I thought Ket was brilliant until the incident. Various other players were having a really good time of it, especially in the wide areas. And they were making Barcelona really think about it. I think they dropped off in the second half. I think they started to fall back and not have so much front-footedness, but that's probably fatigue as well. They played midweek.
Yeah, and they won the league midweek. Pernille Harder, that's her 11th league title in a row, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I think, that gave them confidence. But I think as well, they probably thought like coming away from this game with a draw is
The problem is they have no Harder next week and they have no Ket. So
no Harder. Why no Harder?
She's suspended.
Oh my God! Yeah. Oh no!
And they have no Franziska Ket, who's got red cards.
Yes,
so
rightly so.
Going to Camp Nou without those two is tricky.
Gosh. Now on to Arsenal versus Lyon. Now, was Michelle Kang at your game? Did she have to race across London as well? Could you have hitched a ride in her helicopter?
I didn't see her. My eyes weren't good. I was over the other side of the pitch. But I wonder if she sprint walked up the alleyway like I did.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I reckon there was maybe a chopper on standby.
I should probably have asked her for a lift in the helicopter.
I reckon she probably just went to the Emirates.
Probably.
This was very much a game of two halves. I thought Arsenal were maybe a little bit... It just felt like they didn't come out of the blocks at the same speed as Lyon. They were a little bit sloppy in passes and, Lyon got that early goal from Eula Brand. Arsenal losing possession in midfield. It was quite a nice finish, though, to be fair. Yeah. But it never felt like the game was getting away from Arsenal. No,
they actually started pretty brightly, I think. There were a couple of chances. Ford dragged a shot wide, and then Ford sent a header that just passed the post, and it was just drifting just ahead of Russo. So a couple of really big chances, I think, for Arsenal. But Lyon's press was superb, I think, in that first half. Their midfield three, Lilia Hannes was really front-footed with it, as was Lindsay Heaps. Diani was coming inside to kind of compact the midfield area and try and stop the influence that Kim Little and Mariona Cadeltier could have on the game. And it was working pretty effectively. They were forcing turnovers and a few errors, and sometimes I think in the build-up to their goal, Caitlin Ford got the ball. Ashley Lawrence came in from the right to pressure her, and she kind of had to rush her pass out. So she tried to find Olivia Smith. And then the other fullback came in, Sava, came in and won the ball ahead of her. So they were just really front-footed and aggressive. But I think Arsenal decided to take it to them at half-time.
Second half, very different.
Decided to put their foot on the gas. There was a chance within the first minute.
49th minute, wasn't it, when Smith rattled the side netting?
And I think there was that driving run from Emily Fox and the finish from, the side netting finish from Smith. And suddenly everything in the stadium just felt like the momentum was shifting, and then Kim Little danced through, almost got a penalty, didn't quite. But it was just, there was a shift, and I don't think Lyon really adjusted. No,
Arsenal went up a gear and Lyon kind of didn't.
They didn't know what to do with Arsenal's pressure, and I think, Arsenal just were able to sustain it. The only thing I think they'll be disappointed about in that second half is the fact that they didn't get more goals.
Absolutely. Now, both goals were... came in somewhat slightly chaotic fashion. One from a Mariana Caldente free kick, and the running from Blacksenius seemed to kind of catch the eye of Endler in goal, and she just lost sight of the ball I think it bounced in front of her, and it ended up just going over her. She looked to just be picking it up, simple as, and she just completely fumbled it. Yeah, she. I think that run from Blacksenius rightly put her off, which was the point of the run, if not to get a touch. And then it has been given to Engen, who I apparently got a touch on it at the end. Really hard to see from the various camera angles, but ultimately given as an own goal. And then the second one came from some wonderful pressure from Olivia Smith, some tenacity from her, where a pass back from Lindsay Heaps was short. Both Engen and Endler again kind of at sixes and sevens as to who was responsible for it at the top of the box, and the pressure from Olivia Smith just kind of forced it past them. She went down in a heap, got up again, put the ball in the back of the net.
I think it all started with the reverse of what happened for Lyon's goal. Heaps was under so much pressure when she got the ball, and she kind of panicked her way into having to pass it back, and it was not a good pass back. And when you have Olivia Smith lurking and the kind of speed that she can generate, you're in trouble, and then just absolute chaos between Endler and Engen. And they were left in the heap on the floor, and it was Olivia Smith who picked herself up and quick enough, was alert to go, I can finish this here, and score the goal. She loves scoring at the Emirates. I asked her about that afterwards. She loves, her family were there as well. So it's a really special day for her. They'd all travelled over and were there to watch her, and she won the Queen of the match. She had the crown at the end. So I think it was a really special day for her. And I think it was also a bit of a FU for being kicked.
Well, I was going to say, do you think the reason she was the first up and off her feet compared to the other two was because she'd had so much experience doing that throughout the game, because she had to pick herself up off the ground I don't know how many times. She was absolutely targeted. And they spread it out amongst all of the different players.
I do think, and it wasn't just against Lyon players, there were some against Arsenal play as well, but I do think Lyon went in with the idea to be physical, and they certainly in the opening stages very much targeted Smith, and Svava made about 5 challenges on her, and surely once you made the 5th one you should get a yellow card. And there were various decisions around. There was one from Deanne on Katie McCabe. Deanne should have been booked. Ford on Ashley Lawrence. Ford should have been booked. There were just the various ones where the referee was just not like, she was like yellow carding dissent and kicking the ball away, but she wasn't yellow carding actual fouls. And when you are getting an accumulation and you are targeting players, refs really have to keep this in mind, because you can't, it's against the rules.
Well, and it'll also just kind of gets out of hand then a little bit, because players think they're getting away with stuff. It takes me back to that France-Germany game when there was 50 fouls or something. Do you remember?
It's about finding control of the game.
Absolutely. Well, look, I mean, Arsenal did this as well without Mead, Catley and Kelly. It meant that those wingers had to play most of the game, the majority of the game, and they absolutely worked their socks off. They now have to get themselves back and ready for Leicester midweek. I asked Renee Sleggers about that post-match, and she was like, they're literally doing their recovery right now. They're in the ice baths. Like, recovery starts now and preparation for the next game starts now. But important lead to take into the second leg. But it's the first time Arsenal have beaten Lyon at home, at their home. That's the first time they've won a first leg of a semi-finals. And I'm just hoping things aren't going to flip around. Obviously, Arsenal have gone away to Lyon and won there before. But this tie, neither tie actually, both ties I should say, are definitely not done. No,
I think Arsenal have a lot of experience though, and having been to Lyon the last 2 times and won pretty easily, that doesn't mean they get complacent and think it will happen again by any shot. Lyon are a great team. They're going to have, hopefully, Dumornay back as well.
Yeah.
That's a big, huge boost for them. But I do think that they are so experienced in these moments now, and I wrote in my piece yesterday about how the Champions League feels a bit like a home for them. They're very comfortable with the machinations of it and the ups and downs, and when you think about the losses they've had in it, I don't really count the Chelsea loss. That was a 94th minute goal.
I tell you what, the Chelsea fans will consider it a loss for us.
No, I know, but like in terms of the tie, it didn't really matter. I think the other 2 losses against Lyon at the start of the season and Bayern Munich, while you never want them to happen, they're the losses that you can afford to have to get to this situation. And they've actually managed situations. The way they can problem solve in games as well, I think is a brilliant asset to have. Renee Sleggers, I think, is just proving herself to be a coach who can adapt and be versatile and think about solutions. They're hoping to have Kelly back for the next tie. No timeline on Beth Mead's return, and I'm not sure if Catley will necessarily make it either. Okay, can you please give me a player of the week out of all of those games? Okay, so I was going to go with the honourable shout out to Sam Kerr, just because I think she's brilliant. But I want to shout out Fran Kirby more because I was at the game, and I think she just ran the show for Brighton in terms of an attacking sense, but her experience as well in terms of managing situations and helping her team manage. I think when Madison Haley equalised just before half-time, she had them in a huddle, and she was the one giving the talk and saying, keep on it, don't let it slip. She played a lovely pass out to Seike as well for the second goal.
Assisted the assist.
Assisted the assist.
Of the third.
And had the back heel for the first one. She is magical, and she remains to be playing at the top level. And she is a real asset to the Brighton side, and they'll need her if they are to get to the FA Cup final. Absolutely. Okay, what are you going to shine your spotlight on? I'm going to go Olivia Smith. I know we talked about it, but I think she showed a lot of maturity for a player who has so much talent. But they've got to remember, this is her first, real season, proper season in the Champions League, and to thrive at the Emirates and to, thrive on the big stage and not like shirk those big moments. I think she's 21 years old. A lot of players would maybe take a bit of time to come into that, but she doesn't. She shines in the way that she took that goal, the way that she was just really positive about it and was like, well, I'm going to get there and I'm going to finish. Just says a lot about how she's developed over the course of the season, I think. Brilliant. Okay, we're going to run through very quickly WSL 2. Keep with me now because it is a bit mad as ever. Firstly, the results. Durham 2, Sheffield United 1, Birmingham 0, Ipswich Town 3. Bristol City 2, Newcastle 1. They got a 99-minute winner there. Portsmouth 0, Nottingham Forest 1. Sadly, that does mean Portsmouth are relegated from WSL 2. Sunderland 1, Crystal Palace 2, and Southampton 2, Charlton 2.
with goals coming for Charlton in the 92nd minute and for Southampton in the 94th. So Charlton thought they had won it, and Southampton said absolutely not. Right, so the table, it means, looks like this going into the final weekend. Charlton, they're on top on 42 points. Birmingham City are in second on 41 points, and Palace are in third on 41 points. Charlton host Birmingham City on the final day, and Palace host Portsmouth, as I said, who are already relegated. Now, if Charlton win, they win the league. If Birmingham win, they win the league on goal difference. If Palace win and Charlton and Birmingham draw, Palace win. The playoff spot will be one of those teams. We know that for sure. And what's really annoying is I am shooting Charlton versus Birmingham, and I'm shooting Manchester City versus Liverpool because I wanted to hopefully get 2 trophy lifts, and there is a very high chance I'll get none. But yeah, this is crazy.
Absolute wild.
It's, you don't, ultimately we know 2 of them are definitely guaranteed promotion and one of them is getting a playoff spot. So there is that kind of almost like secondary option for someone, but we just don't know who's getting what.
I know I was on the Birmingham train most of the season.
You cannot change now.
But Palace are going to win the league. That's my call.
Oh, thanks, great. I'm so glad I'm not going to Lyon and going to 2 games that I'll probably see nothing in.
No, I think, I just think there's every chance that game could end in a draw, given the form of both sides. Charlton's form have kind of dropped off a bit of a cliff in this turn of the year.
So did City's in this
Birmingham
game.
Are so inconsistent. Like they
were 3-0 down after 19 minutes.
I know, they're so inconsistent, and I don't understand really why, because they have so much quality within their ranks, but they have this tendency to just lose themselves in games. And it's not just, this isn't the first game that's happened in the season. There have been games that they on paper should be winning and that they've dropped points in or lost. So it's going to be an intriguing final day, but yeah, I'm going to go with Palace.
You're going to have a great weekend, me. Finally, a word on Portsmouth. They they're just 4 points behind Sheffield United in 11th, and if they upset Crystal Palace on the weekend, they could potentially end up finishing 1 point behind Sheffield United.
Yeah.
Gutting for them.
Yeah.
FAWNL teams coming up are Watford FC and Burnley, and there is a playoff between Wolves and Plymouth for that final spot. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're almost done, I swear. So yeah, there's some new names coming up, which will be exciting to see. It's all happening. There's loads going on. There's plenty to play for in WSL too, and arguably plenty to play for in the WSL as well this weekend.
And in the FAWNL, because there's more playoffs as well.
And in the Champions League. So if you're not watching Football Week this weekend, what the hell are you doing?
You're going to quintuple screen it.
Can't wait till next week. We'll chat to you all about it then.